Aloha and good afternoon. You're watching This Is Now. I'm Dylan Ancheta in the H&N Digital Center. We have two breaking stories to get to right here on This Is Now. First up, charges have been filed against Private First Class Dwayne Arthur Johnson II. He's linked to the disappearance of his pregnant wife, Misha Johnson. Now, Army officials said the general nature of the charges are for providing false official statements, obstruction of justice, and the production and distribution of child pornography. Loved ones have been searching high and low for any signs of Misha ever since she was reported missing on July 31st. Multiple sources also previously told Hawaii News Now that store surveillance video showed Dwayne purchasing tools and cleaning supplies prior to making that report. Now, officials said the case remains in active investigation and Johnson remains in pretrial confinement pending a preliminary hearing. Now, our other top story as well, Special Counsel Jack Smith has filed a superseding indictment in the election interference case against former President Donald Trump on Tuesday. The move slims down the allegations against Trump in light of the Supreme Court's immunity ruling. In July, the Supreme Court found presidents are immune from criminal prosecution for official acts while in office. While prosecutors have not dropped any of the four charges initially brought against Trump, the newly retooled indictment has omitted out some of Trump's alleged conduct. The special counsel's office says the new indictment reflects the government's efforts to respect and implement the Supreme Court's holdings. Prosecutors argue several times in the new indictment that Trump didn't have any constitutionally assigned presidential duties regarding the post-election transition of power. Trump has pleaded not guilty to the charges against him. We just got new details on the two-alarm fire in Kaimuki overnight. It happened at a two-story house on Sierra Drive. Now, HFD got the call early this morning around 4:40 a.m. Crews managed to extinguish the fire in about an hour. We're told no one was in the house at the time. One firefighter did suffer an injury and was taken to the hospital, but no word on their condition. The cause of this fire is under investigation. Honolulu police are investigating the death of State Deputy Sheriff Jordan Kagehiro. The Department of Law Enforcement says his body was found in his home yesterday. Kagehiro graduated from the DLE Recruit Academy just last year. The case right now is classified as an unattended death. On Hawaii Island, 64-year-old Robert Harris of Ocean View is facing animal cruelty charges. Police arrested Harris on Friday after he was found with blood on his hands and a knife and his dog with puncture wounds. A judge granted Harris supervised release. He'll be back in court next month. Attempted murder suspect Jonathan Ten appeared to glare at cameras yesterday as a judge confirmed his bail at $1 million. He's accused of shooting a 16-year-old boy through a city bus window in Kalihi earlier this month. The motive is still under investigation. HPD is also looking for a second suspect who allegedly helped Ten escape on a moped. Turning now to Campaign 2024, former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard has officially endorsed former President Trump in his bid for the presidency.
If you cherish peace and freedom as we do, I invite you to join me in doing all that we can to save our country and elect President Donald J. Trump and send him back to the White House.
The two were at a campaign event for veterans in Detroit, Michigan. The former Democratic presidential candidate commended the Republican nominee for his foreign policy, citing her experience as an Iraq war veteran. Gabbard is reportedly helping Trump with debate prep since she debated Kamala Harris in 2020. At New Today, we've also learned that Gabbard will have a spot on Trump's transition team, according to a senior campaign official. Now, the senior campaign advisor confirmed in a statement on Tuesday that Trump has added Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and former Rep. Tulsi Gabbard to the transition team. Kennedy endorsed Trump on Friday after ending his presidential bid. The campaign official said the team is proud to have RFK Jr. and former Rep. Gabbard on board, adding, quote, "We look forward to having their powerful voices on this team as we work to restore America's greatness." They will be honorary co-chairs that will help him select the policies and personnel of any second Trump administration. Now, both the Trump and Harris campaigns squared off over the economy today, with both sides saying that they will make homes more affordable for everyone, especially for younger Americans. And there also may be a new deal guaranteeing a presidential debate. Skylar Henry has more.
Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance rallied with voters in the battleground state of Michigan Tuesday.
Michigan is going red.
Vance focused on the economy and inflation.
You talk to a young person today, young people cannot afford to buy a home in their own country. We're turning a generation of 20 and 30-year-olds into permanent debtors.
Vice President Kamala Harris is also talking about the economy with a new ad focusing on affordable housing.
My mother saved for well over a decade to buy a home. I was a teenager when that day finally came, and I can remember so well how excited she was.
Harris's plan calls for building 3 million housing units in 4 years with new tax credits for builders targeting first-time home buyers and $25,000 in tax credits for the buyers. Harris has been off the campaign trail and has been reportedly using that time to prepare for the September 10th presidential debate.
I want to do debates.
Former President Trump says he's ready for the debate. He posted on social media Tuesday that he has come to an agreement with the Harris campaign on the rules for the debate. He says it will be the same rules as the previous Trump-Biden debate. The Harris campaign wanted to change the rules so that the candidates' mics are left open the entire time, as opposed to the Biden-Trump debate when they were only on when it was the candidates' turn to speak. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Now, that debate between Trump and Harris is a few weeks away, and even if you already know who you're voting for, debates have a pretty strong record of helping impact or even decide elections. CNN's Brian Todd has a look back.
I've been proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%.
It was the debate performance that changed the dynamic of this race, ultimately ending President Biden's candidacy for re-election.
For what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Biden, after a disastrous debate, leaving top Democrats looking for a way to get him out of the race or openly questioning his fitness for office.
I think it's a legitimate question to say, is this an episode or is this a condition?
The debate changed the race. The debate just laid bare for the American public and, more importantly, Democratic members of Congress that Joe Biden could not be their nominee.
From Biden to Nixon, a period spanning more than 60 years, fraught moments in debates have often been decisive. September 1960, in the very first televised presidential debate, Richard Nixon, who was ill, was visibly sweating, while his opponent, John F. Kennedy, looked youthful and composed.
When the two were viewed side by side, and then you asked yourself, whose finger would you like to be on the nuclear button, it became clear you didn't want the sweaty guy from California.
In the vice presidential debate in 1988, Dan Quayle characterized himself as a Republican version of a young John Kennedy, which teed up his opponent, Lloyd Bentsen, perfectly.
Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
That election season, Benson's running mate, Michael Dukakis, in his debate with George H.W. Bush, was asked a fateful question referencing his wife by CNN's Bernard Shaw.
Governor, if Kitty Dukakis were raped and murdered, would you favor an irrevocable death penalty for the killer?
No, I don't, Bernard, and I think you know that I've opposed the death penalty during all of my life.
It was terrible. This was the opportunity to show humanity, and instead, he made himself look like more of a humorless, emotionless robot than he had seen before.
There were the wordless missteps, the body language gaffes. At a debate in 2000, Al Gore audibly sighs.
There's differences.
And in another debate that year, Gore gets a little too close to George W. Bush on stage.
And I believe
a federal judge has blocked a landmark effort by the Biden administration to offer 500,000 undocumented immigrants who are married to American citizens a path to U.S. citizenship. Natalie Brand reports from Washington.
When President Biden announced his executive action in June, he called it a common-sense fix for undocumented immigrants married to American citizens.
This action is a better way. It doesn't tear families apart, while requiring every undocumented spouse to fulfill their obligations under the law.
But today, the program is on pause after a federal judge in Texas temporarily blocked it. It followed a lawsuit by 16 states with Republican attorneys general. President Biden's policy allowed unauthorized immigrants to apply for temporary work permits and have deportation protections if they're married to a U.S. citizen and have lived in this country for at least 10 years.
They are members of the community, contributing both economically and in the job market. So it's an unfortunate setback for them and for the administration.
Musafir Shishti is a senior fellow with the Migration Policy Institute. He describes the challenges those spouses had faced under congressional law.
They're supposed to leave the country and get their green card from traveling abroad. So that's obviously a huge inconvenience and separates families.
President Biden introduced the policy after a separate executive action he announced to limit asylum seekers at the southern border. That was met by major pushback from progressives.
In the absence of congressional action, the border remains a top election issue.
We will seal the border, stop the invasion, and launch the largest deportation effort in American history.
While this latest challenge plays out in the courts, the Department of Homeland Security confirmed Tuesday the agency will continue accepting applications for Biden's spousal policy, but it had stopped approving cases. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Washington.
The family of an Ohio man whose body was found near the Honolulu airport stabbed is still searching for answers. It's been over a month since the incident, and HPD has yet to identify a suspect. Paige Barnes has this update.
Honolulu International Airport Police found the body of a 51-year-old man on July 14th, later identified as J.D. Purdon. It took a while to track down his family, but when they did, the West Union residents say they were in shock.
I had no words. I'm like, why? How? Where at? And then she told me Hawaii, and I'm like, how did he get to Hawaii? And I think that was everybody's question is, how did he get to Hawaii?
J.D. Purdon's younger sister, Brittany, says her brother was a laid-back guy who could easily make friends, making a motive harder to believe. The 6-hour time difference isn't making access to information easier.
Nothing else really matters because we can't go back and change it. We can't go out and find his killer ourselves. So for us, it's just a waiting game. It's waiting for updates, waiting for news, waiting to see if an article's released.
She says Purdon went wherever the wind took him. He was last in Florida to be with his sons and ex-wife. The family knew he wanted to go to Hawaii, but didn't share for how long.
I wouldn't see him for a year, but we always stayed in contact. I would get messages just randomly. He would send me pictures of flowers. And I'm sorry. He would send me pictures of flowers and say, hey sis, I love you.
Adkins says she'll remember her brother as a fighter, even up until his death. Investigators are using lab results to find the suspects.
He did put up a fight, so that was something that really kind of eased it, was that we knew he wanted to stay,
In a new scathing internal survey, low morale and a lack of communication are among the top complaints from Honolulu police officers. About 370 officers and 100 civilian employees took part in the survey, and that's about 22%. Arlene Kawano breaks this all down.
There were 15 questions asked in the survey, but it's the comments from respondents that paint a concerning picture of HPD brass. An inside look at the issues facing civilian and HPD officers. 470 people responded to the survey. Most were sergeants, detectives, and patrol officers with 16 to 25 years on the force. Among the questions, does the lower level commander support the officers and employees? And if the commanders effectively communicate their goals and objectives.
Find out what weaknesses we have, what strengths we have, sustain our strengths, work on the weaknesses.
The weaknesses were glaring in the comments. Many cited the lack of manpower due to shortages, but said commanders denied overtime to supplement shortages. Some said officer safety is not a priority. Several spoke about morale, saying it was at an all-time low, and pointed out that many leave after hitting the 25-year mark.
And I think the comments are more telling than the actual data itself. I would encourage them to take a look at the comments. Look at what's going on, the concerns these officers are having. One of the common questions or comments we saw in here was a level of disconnect. The fourth floor doesn't really know what's going on at the ground.
Despite the survey comments, the Police Commission gave Chief Joe Logan a positive annual review, saying he exceeds expectations, something Honolulu's mayor was surprised about. He didn't even know about the March survey until this month.
But right now, that survey, its results, contradicted by the evaluation that I saw, has left me in a place which I was blindsided on and didn't get the courtesy of knowing about, has left me in a place of real concern as to how I look at leadership.
Commission Chair Doug Chin says the survey is a baseline to steer Chief Logan's goals for the next year.
Without question, we're going to be looking at the survey results and the survey comments, and as a commission, figuring out a way to be able to edit and tweak the criteria that we evaluate the chief on, so that way we can be able to hold him accountable into the next year.
Recruiting is number one. Number two is reducing violent crime, and more importantly, focused on gun crime. And number three is morale. How do we improve the morale and some of the negative culture that I need to do within the department? So how do we fix all of that?
The mayor says that should have already been in the works. Logan has been chief for more than 2 years.
It's not a developmental job, not at this stage, not what is at stake. So reading those survey results are of real concern to me, because I internalize that from the standpoint of what it means to those men and women that we're asking to risk their lives each and every day. At the end of the day, we owe it to them to make sure whoever's in charge of that deserves to be in charge of that.
To view the entire survey results and read the comments, go to our website. We have a link at hawaiinewsnow.com. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for that report. Let's send you live outside now. As you can see, the clear skies have returned to Hilo Bay after tropical storm and /hurricane Hone has moved away from the island. So the beautiful conditions are back here in the islands. A beautiful day there out in Hilo. Stay with us. We'll have more news and weather after your break.
How's it on this Tuesday? We're saying bye-bye to one cyclone, hello to another. So Hone is leaving us, right? Right now winds are at 60 miles an hour, but we'll see fewer, effects from Hone over the next few days as it departs. But we'll see more effects from Gilma. Gilma's going to get closer. It's going to die before it gets here, so it's not going to be a severe weather threat. However, the big moisture field could kick in, and we could see more scattered showers, especially Thursday and Friday. Friday being the wettest day. So you can can see this morning, there's not a lot of rain, but it's not totally dry. Just a few light passing showers. Now, the winds are running a little slow this morning, but they'll pick up the speed. They'll be running at moderate speeds for the rest of the week. However, when Gilma gets closer, we've got lighter winds scheduled for the weekend. So it's going to be a little bit humid this weekend, yeah? So this morning, a few showers, really not much. Should be drier today with partly cloudy to partly sunny skies, and those winds will pick up to about 15 to 20 miles an hour. Now, Hone still is providing some energy to south and east shores. Pretty good stuff, too. Definitely better conditions on the south shore because the east side remains a little bit choppy. So, again, it's going to be much drier and sunnier today, but the remnants of Gilma could come in as early as tomorrow night and could be lingering through Friday. Thursday and Friday expected to be the wettest days. Now, there is a chance for maybe some heavy rainfall as well, so keep it tuned. We're just not really sure who's going to get what at this point, but prepare for a few days of wet weather and lighter winds coming in for the weekend.
Thank you so much for that forecast. Now turning to the Salvation Army. They've been serving Hawaii and the greater Pacific region for more than 130 years. And today we're showcasing some of the work they do that helps make our community better places to live. Casey Lund is in Manoa with more on the organization's mission and some recent success stories.
So 130 years, a great opportunity to highlight the work that's happened, not just here in Hawaii, but really across the Pacific. And as you mentioned, that wonderful partnership that the Salvation Army has with the County of Hawaii, creating that overnight shelter for houseless individuals. We highlighted that, but we're also talking about disaster preparedness, disaster response with the Salvation Army, being prepared for storms like Hone and other natural disasters to step in and serve people. The Salvation Army also really responds to everyday disasters that happen in our community. And to talk a little bit more about that, I've got Melanie Boehm. She's the Divisional Director of Social Services, and Diane Ayu, the Director of the Community Assistance Center. I want to start with Melanie. This is a unique campus and a great one that we've been highlighting because just below us here, some transitional housing for women who have been through a lot and have really worked through the programs at the Salvation Army and gotten to a great point where they're getting ready to find work, get out in the community. As I mentioned, responding to those everyday disasters, what are some of the things that you folks are able to jump into action to when people are going through crisis?
Absolutely, thank you. So we provide substance use disorder treatment for pregnant and parenting women with dependent children. We're really the only one in the state that has a residential program where moms and babies can come into treatment together. And be together and be united while mom is getting treatment and help. So we provide residential services, transitional housing. We also provide infant mental health services and just all the evidence-based practice that goes along with gender-responsive care.
Yeah, and Deanne, I want to talk a little bit about a really great program and a really awesome milestone that just happened this past Saturday, Pathways to Hope. You had a graduation, and I believe we have some video or some images of that. Can you tell us a little bit about how special of an occasion that was?
Yes, so we had our second annual Pathway of Hope summer celebration at Camp Homalani in Wailua, and we celebrated 6 families who graduated from our Pathway of Hope case management program.
And I asked Charmaine, your folks' development director, a little bit about what she loves about working for this organization. I want to ask you the same question.
Oh, same. The mission of the Salvation Army aligns perfectly with my personal values, and I feel like we have aligned my skills and the mission together so we can serve the community and help families.
Very well put. And for you, Melanie?
All same thing. It's accomplishing the mission, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ and meeting human needs in his name without discrimination.
Very good. Yeah. And I think that's important to note that you can come to the Salvation Army. It doesn't matter what you believe in. This is really a community organization, and I'm really glad to share some of the work that you folks do. Again, a reminder that the holidays are going to be upon us before we know it. It's August, but it'll be December in like 2 days, right? It always feels that way. It sneaks up on you. So there's so many opportunities to help the Salvation Army, whether you want to be a bell ringer, whether you want to volunteer with the annual Thanksgiving dinner that happens at the Blaisdell Center. There are some great opportunities to give back. If you're in a position to do that, we have information at hawaiinewsnow.com. For now, we'll send things back into the studio.
On the next Spotlight Now, we focus in on the unique relationship between the U.S. military and Hawaii and what that relationship looks like moving forward.
Hope to see you 1 o'clock Tuesday on K5.
In today's news from the feeds, 2 fishermen off Australia caught on camera a terrifying moment when they were circled by a great white and that shark eventually bit into their boat. But the good news is the fishermen were unharmed. A CNN affiliate in Australia has this story.
This is the moment a great white shark circled 2 fishermen's boats off the coast of Australia.
Seriously thought it was a baby whale at first sight, but yeah, it was a monster great white.
The female predator circled Jaden Grace and Joe Cook for about 45 minutes.
That is huge.
Eventually, the shark took a bite out of the boat, leaving behind scuff marks and scratches.
He just bit my boat. He just bit my boat.
The fishermen were unharmed.
Well, that's what the great white did to me boat.
They later said the encounter was a true bucket list moment.
Well, that is good news there that no one was injured in that frightening encounter. Always incredible to see such great video up close, but be careful out there. We're going to end today with another live look outside Honolulu, but first, we want to remind you that Spotlight Now is coming up at 1 o'clock right here on Hawaii News Now. Sending things outside, we looked at Hilo. Now we're looking at Oahu. Nice, beautiful blue skies here all across the way. Thanks for tuning in to This Is Now. Reminder, download our Hawaii News Now news and weather apps if you haven't already, and you can get breaking news push alerts sent right to your phone. Aloha.